Testing. 1, 2, 3.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial. How can I convince you when your ears refuse to hear? You turn your heart away from me each time when I draw near. Your eyes refuse to meet with mine, they glance away in fear.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys that are listening this morning is go get a cup of coffee, maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
Well, it's just a show. How can I contain this angry hesitation? Knowing that your eyes are blinded by the lies. He is the free American, Clay Douglas. That's the Free America, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. Every time I think about the damage that's been done, the anger wells inside me till I'm almost overcome. I want to tear the moon out of the sky and drop the sun. For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamericans.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American. I'm your host. I'm Clay Douglas, the Free American. And my guest today is Russell Pappalardo, the mighty Phoenix. Hello, Russell. How are you?
Good morning. A bit agitated, but I will survive. The weather is horrible. It's muggy. It's humid. And it's hot in the free lands of the Phoenix. Other than that, I'm totally aggravated about, as usual, every 4 years, the candidates that are being touted about on Zionist-controlled television. And folks, before I begin, let me say this. I would like you all to go to my Facebook page, which is Phoenix Speaks 1, and go down and scroll down, that's the number 1, Phoenix Speaks and the number 1, and go down to the 3 photos I have of Jeb Bush, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton. And I'm going to say something quickly, then I'm going to turn the reins over to Mr. Douglas, and then I'll continue on in a short while. First of all, there's a poster of Jeb Bush. Poster of him has he looks very well dressed and immaculate. He has a Star of David on his, or what I call Solomon's seal, which it is, 6-pointed star. 6 faces, 6 points, and 6 stars actually, which signify the beast, number 666. And the poster says, "Want more unnecessary wars fought for Israel? More police state measures? More debt owed to Rothschild banks? Then vote for me." Then you go down to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, of course. Donald Trump is rich, but the Jews who decide U.S. elections, its states, are richer, and Don is already groveling to the Jews like a little bitch. Trump wants the triple sanctions against Iran, a country that hasn't waged war for centuries. To be precise, it doesn't say this, but since 1798. Why? Because he's Israel's bitch like everyone else. And here's what he says: I would double up and triple up the sanctions. I would make them, the Iranians, want to make a deal. Right now, they're just toying with us. Oh, boy, that bald-headed freak. And he's well-dressed, too, of course. And then you go down to the next president, that is, if you fools vote, says, want more unnecessary wars to make Illuminati Jewish central bankers and their military-industrial complex richer and richer, while enslaving us to more debt? Then vote for me. I'm Rothschild's bitch. Puppet Hillary Clinton, and his Hillary with a big Star of David around her, too. And then, of course, I have a comment to make on each of those. And I would suggest, folks, I would really appreciate it if you would go to my page, like the page, take the post, and then share the post on Facebook. That is, if you have chutzpah, as the Jews would say, and say it came from my page, and let them go to my page. This way we can wake up more of us, and then we will truly become legion. But I am totally disgruntled because what really got this off today, I got up pretty early. I was very tired last night. Went to sleep rather early. I was watching WWE wrestling to amuse myself, and I couldn't even see the final match, which would have been hilarious. I'll have to get it on YouTube. And I walked to 7-Eleven, and it was a bunch of old men. I know one or two of them, and they were arguing over who's going to be the next president, and one guy was saying this, and one guy saying this. I didn't even want to get involved because I said I can't take it. Humanity is gone. They don't know that the real owners of America, the real people who decide who becomes a candidate, is the Israeli lobby. The Israeli lobby should be expelled from the United States, and the current group of senators and congressmen, every one of them hung for treason. And then lobbying should be outlawed, because I believe that even if Clay and I had a lobby, I don't want lobby, because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and I don't want to be tempted. I've been there, and I've done that, and I know the ramifications of what happens to the ego and what happens to the soul of an individual when they acquire great power. I've had power in different areas. I don't want it anymore. I only want power over myself. I certainly don't want power over you listeners. I want you to have your own power. I want you to know who you really are, that you are a center of expression of the creator of this universe, the primal will to good, that the Gnostic call the Christos. And you have, and all the power that ever was or will be is with you now. You just have to activate it. That's what you have to do, friends. You have to stand for something righteous, or fall for everything that these lying, silver-tongued wolves in fine haberdashery, these ticks and parasites who call themselves politicians, really are. Clay, take the reins, brother.
Well, I've got something up here I think we need to share with people, because it's really, the whole plan is laid out. What's happening right now is been laid out for you. And Henry Ford said, the only statement I care to make about the protocols is they fit in with what is going on. They're 16 years old, and they have fitted the world situation up to this time. They fit it now. That was Henry Ford in an interview published in the New York World on February 17th, 1921. What this means, folks, is that we've known your leaders, the really bright people here, have known what we're trying to tell you today. Protocol number 1 says, we are despots. Behold the alcoholic animals bemused with drink, the right to an immediate use of which comes along with freedom. It's not for us and ours to walk that road. The peoples of the Goyim are bemused by alcoholic liquors. Their youth have grown stupid on classicism and from early immorality, into which it has been inducted by our special agents, by tutors, lackeys, governors in the houses of the wealthy, by clerks and others, by our women in places of dissipation frequented by the Goyim. In the number of these last, I count also the so-called society ladies, followers of others in corruption and luxury. I mean, you could probably just say Hillary Clinton in that. And this is written over 200 years ago. Unfortunately, it's not only alcohol, which is infected in our society, but also porn, drugs, extreme materialism, addiction to TV. They don't call it programming for nothing. In decreasing interest to learn and succeed in school, common acceptance and tolerance of immorality and other things, public gay marches, etc., and a general broad stupidity among people. This is what amazes me, folks, that the people, no matter how much we try to tell them, try to educate them, they don't care. They don't want to listen to us. They want to call us, oh, he's an extremist. Oh, he's anti-government. Oh, he's anti-Semitic. Protocol number 1 is, we shall end liberty. We got a nice shot of all these politicians in their nice little suits signing a bill. And protocol number 2 is destructive education. The United States spent most public and private money per student, spent the most public and private money per student during 2000, but it didn't rank among the top 10 countries for student performance in math, reading, and science. In reading, we were number 15. In science, we were number 14. In math, we were number 19. I call it the public fool system because that's exactly what it is. They're not educating you, they're indoctrinating you. Monetary theory will not be studied. The ability to think critically and independently is generally not taught or encouraged in many schools today worldwide. It is publicly and generally forbidden to do so openly on certain subjects, political correctness, and judicially forbidden on others, anti-free speech laws. Can't talk about the Jews, can't talk about the Zionists. You could be arrested. And of course, this is what they do. Poverty is our weapon. They NAFTA started it. They sent. That's how they destroyed Mexico. And now this whole country has been reduced to poverty. 12%, or 36,136,794 Americans, are living below the poverty line. I certainly am. I'm sure Russell is too, because they won't let us get a job. They won't let us work for a company. Protocol number 3 is we support communism. The people, under our guidance, they say, have annihilated the aristocracy who were their one and only defense and foster mother for the sake of their own advantage, which is inseparably bound up with the well-being of the people. Nowadays, with the destruction of their aristocracy, the people have fallen into the grips of merciless, money-grinding scoundrels who have laid a pitiless and cruel yoke upon the necks of the workers. We appear on the scene as alleged saviors of the worker from this oppression when we propose to him to enter to the ranks of our fighting forces, socialist, anarchist, communist, to whom we will always give support in accordance with an alleged brotherly rule of the solidarity of all humanity, of our social masonry. The aristocracy which enjoyed by law the labor of the workers was interested in seeing that the workers were well-fed, healthy, and strong. We are interested in just the opposite, in the diminution, the killing out of the goyim. Our power is the chronic shortness of food and physical weakness of the worker, because all that this implies, he is made the slave of our will, and he will not find in his own authorities either strength or energy to set against our will. Hunger creates the right of capital to rule the worker more surely than it was given to the aristocracy by the legal authority of kings. Yes, you are a slave. It is planned that way. You get a little bit of money and you get a little bit of the new toys here, but it's just to distract you. What we ought to be doing is growing our food, restoring our farms, protecting the small farmers instead of watching them and allowing them to get eaten up by Archer Daniels, Midland, and Monsanto, whose food will kill you. Have I missed anything here, Russell?
No, but I want to comment on it. Clay used two phrases I'm going to augment on, as I like to do. First of all, he used the term public fool system, which he's 100% correct. And he used the term. He used three terms. He used the term indoctrination. This is why I like to call it a system of pubic, P-U-B-I-C, indoctrination. And he used the word disruptive education. Let me augment on that. That's very important. When I went to high school, before I was asked to leave, I was told by my science teacher that the world was going to be so great in the 21st century, it's going to be a utopia. Please, it's not a utopia. It's a dystopia. It is a totalitarian police state. The freedoms I had as a youth, all the way up to before the first anti-terrorist laws in '94, or before the DWI laws in 1970, whatever it was, were freedoms. I have no freedoms now, other than the freedoms I make. I declare myself a sovereign and a sovereign citizen. They also told me that I evolved from a fish, and that the science teacher would make us touch the back above our ass to feel our tailbone, because the fish evolved into a monkey and then a human. And then he showed us Professor Edwin Haeckel's drawings in the science books to prove that we evolved from a monkey. From a fish to a monkey to a so on and so on. What he didn't tell us was that Professor Edwin Haeckel was taken to court in Jena, Switzerland, broke down, cried, and admitted all his drawings were fakes. And he says, everyone does it, why shouldn't he? Please forgive him. They didn't tell us that. They also told us that 6 million Jews were killed in Europe in a Holocaust that never occurred, because there were only 3.4 million Jews in Europe before the war. And what about the millions that were shipped out for $1,000 a head to Adolf Hitler to go to Madagascar, Palestine, London, Brooklyn, New York, and certain parts of Africa to stir up trouble? So what kind of fairy tales What kind of fairy tale is that? That's what I call disruptive education. And because you're not being educated. And when you talk about the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, they don't even mention that, because they're afraid somebody would read it. Most people will not. Why? Because the government and the teachers and the media and tout that it's a forgery. Well, it is a forgery. It's an unauthorized copy. The fact remains, if you read it, and they don't want you to read it, that you realize most of the things that are talked about, just about every protocol, has come to pass. And if you can't see that, you're as blind as a fracking bat, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. The protocols of Zion are nothing more than like the Communist Manifesto written by Amschel Bauer and his family, the Rothschilds, who started the Illuminati in 1776. Those protocols are 200 years old, over 200 years old, almost 250 years old. It's time to wake up, folks. You've been had, taken, hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, mesmerized, and yes, mind fucked. And I'm being profane because I'm dealing with the profane. That's the facts. The system in America is not an education system. It's, as Clay Douglas just said, a public foodle system, or as I say, a system of pubic indoctrination designed to jail your children 5 days a week, so that they can become a mind control slave or a worker bee in the New World Order. Or like, as I like to say, the Jew World Order. It does not educate you. It educates you. If you're educated in the college, you can actually go around and boast that you have a degree in pubic indoctrination and memorization. Memorization of balderdash, or as the Jews would say, bubba-mice, nonsense and fairy tales. The purpose of the evolution game, who was not founded by Charles Darwin, but by his grandfather, Erasmus Darwin, who was a 33rd degree Freemason, is to get you to denounce or not believe in God. See, the problem is this. If you start doubting the Bible, which I doubt completely, there are truths in there, but you got to search for them, is that most people lack the chutzpah to go, as the Jews would say, to go deeper down the rabbit hole and find out that there is a God, there is a creator. Because, folks, I have as much chance as evolving from a fish as an explosion taking place in a print factory, and out comes an unabridged Webster's Dictionary. Wake up.
Now,
as you can see, I'm aggravated today.
I can understand that, and there's more reason for everyone to be aggravated, because what we're telling you is the truth. These, and we've had the massacres at Columbine by mind-controlled, drugged individuals. Well, we've just had another one in Roseburg, Oregon. A gunman opened fire at Oregon's Umpqua Community College, and he singled out Christians, according to the father of a wounded student. Before going into spinal surgery, Anastasia Boylan told her father the gunman entered her classroom firing. And he said, "I've been waiting to do this for years." The gunman told a professor teaching the class he shot him point blank, Boylan recounted. Others were hit too, she told her family. Everyone in the classroom dropped to the ground. The gunman, while reloading his handgun, ordered the students to stand up and ask if they were Christians, Boylan told her family. And they would stand up, and he said, "Good, because you're a Christian, you're going to see God in just about 1 second." Boylan's father, Stacy, told CNN, relaying her account. Then he shot and killed him. Boylan, 18, was hit in the back by a bullet that traveled down her spine. While she lay bleeding on the floor, the gunman called out to her. "Hey, you blonde woman," her mother said. She played dead and survived. Folks, this is, I've told you, it's a war not only on Christians, but it's a war on white people. Now, I believe Anastasia, she was a beautiful white girl, white lady, and we've been talking about that on my show recently. This is a war on Christians, it's a war on white people. And remember when the communists, who were Jews, when the Bolsheviks took over Russia, they singled out and killed almost 60 million white Christian Russians. I've told you the same thing is happening here. I've told you that many times. It's true. So you got to get back to the sources. Who is programming these people? Who's motivating them? Part of it's the drug companies. We know that. But it's more than that. I mean, it's television. It's the movies. Trying to rile up people, trying to get them, and the Christians and the Muslims were designed to be fought against each other. So let's not skip over the fact that the Mossad in Saudi Arabia caused a stampede, killed hundreds or thousands of Muslims that were on their way to their most holy site, and they killed thousands of them. Hundreds were hurt in the stampede. To kidnap, so the Mossad could kidnap Iranian officials. Russell, would you like to comment on that? I mean, come on. Yeah, they've set you up to believe that the Muslims are coming to kill you, the Muslims are coming to kill you, the Muslims are bad, the Muslims are bad, following Albert Pike's directions from the Civil War days, that our Third World War would be with the Muslims. They're working on that right now. Russell?
Well, as we've said many times, there's a letter from Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini, the alleged founder of the Mafia, which I don't believe that, who happened to be a 33rd degree Freemason. It was in a London or a Paris museum. I don't know if it's still there. It stated there would be 3 world wars: one to develop communism in Europe, second one was to develop a United Nations or League of Nations, and to also steal Palestine away from the Palestinians, the rightful owners, and to give it to Israel. And the Third World War would be fought after the turn of the century between the Arab nations and the Christian nations, so we could kill off each other, and then people would cry out, help us, help us. How do we stop this? And then they'd have open new world order. This is what's happening. Any man who knows, who's in the know, or woman who's in the know, knows this to be true. It's all a charade. It's all an act to enslave us all, because these people desire one thing and one thing only, is power. Of course, money, but money is part of the power image. They need it, and the more they get, the more they want. And you follow suit out there, most of you, with your instant gratification problems. You say to yourself, what you don't know don't hurt you. Well, it already has hurt you, folks. The world, and especially here in America, which was the last bastion of freedom, is in deep trouble. As I've said many times, a great storm is coming, and it will bring death on frozen or mighty wind. The tide is high, and there's a bad moon arising, as Credence once sang in the early 70s or late 60s. The fact is, the UN Agenda 21, wants to cut down the world population. They don't even want you to defend yourself. You know, in England, I don't know if the law is still in effect, but if you're an old person who can't even walk correctly, and you have a cane, and a criminal comes in with a gun, which is illegal in England, and sticks you up, if you defend yourself with the cane, you could go to jail. This is a joke. They say they're going to protect you. You see, they don't want you to protect yourself. They don't want you to educate your children. They don't want your children to be moral. They want to take control. They want you only to memorize a group of facts so you could do this. When it's all over, when you graduate college, after you went to school, you got that job, you could pay taxes to them, the crown, you could get married, raise kids who will probably get divorced in this day and age, come back to live with you, or you'll still be stuck paying for them, and yet you'll pay for their college like a fool. And then those kids will get married, have kids, pay taxes, do everything that you've done, and then you'll be told to repeat after me. Now repeat after me, I am free. Folks, there are none so hopelessly enslaved as those who falsely believe that they are free.
Well, you know,
folks, I would suggest you read 3 books out there, and very important books on this topic. I would read Henry Ford's The International Jew, the World's Most Foremost Problem. It's 4 volumes. You could get it from Amazon very inexpensively. You may be able to get these books free on PDF. I would read Dr. David Duke's Jewish Supremacism. And I would read the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. I would also watch on YouTube Benjamin Friedman's Warning Against the Zionism. I would look up Myron Fagan's video on the dangers of Zionism. And I would get myself acquainted with what's going on in the world, and I would talk about it, because the more of you that talk about it, the more their agenda, which they will succeed at through their conspiracies, because they own everything, the media, the TV, etc., and so forth, the pharmaceutical companies. If you don't do what I tell you to do and talk about it, America will fall. It's already rocking and weaving, and trust me, folks, we're either in the 11th or the 12th round. You got one last shot, and it's to do what I said. Stand for what's right or fall for everything. And what's right? What is righteousness? How many of you really know the definition of what is righteousness? I bet many of you don't. I'll tell you what righteousness is. Righteousness is doing the things one ought to do at the time one ought to do it, and taking the path less taken. Walk not with the crowds. Take the road less traveled. Follow the 50 spiritual and cosmic laws of the universe, which you could get from YouTube, which can be summed up in the golden rule of Jesus, who stated, do unto others the way you would want them to do unto you. But let me add, and I'm sure Jesus said this, but of course they took it out, if someone tries to infringe upon your free will, including your government, your churches, and your schools, stop them, and stop them with extreme prejudice and by any means necessary. It's your universal right. This is what you must do. If you really want to be righteous, it's certainly not going to church every Sunday and listening to that nonsense that your Zionist-controlled preacher, who's tax exempt because he supports Israel, teaches you. Folks, Jesus once said, know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Free from what? Well, he did tell you that, but they cut that out. Yeah, the rabbis doctored your New Testament too. It's the real saying is know the truth, and the truth will set you free from the consequences, the dire ramifications of ignorance, of the facts of true knowledge. But you have fear, and that's why you don't do that. And what is fear? Fear is F, false, E, evidence, A, appearing, R, real. Fear, folks, is false evidence appearing real.
Now, I'm going to take a moment here.
Fear is the forerunner of failure.
I'm going to take a moment here. I have been doing this show for 20 years, trying to tell you I started it after watching the government troops, the real Nazis out there, murder 17 little children in Waco. They did more than that. It wasn't just the little children. They killed their parents. They killed their families. This was the same thing the Bolsheviks, the Jews, did to the white Christian Russians. And this was a church. The Branch Davidians was a church that had been established near Waco for 50 years. David Koresh was just a recent player, and he was a charismatic leader, and he chose to make a living by selling guns and selling weapons. That was a good thing. That wasn't something to be feared or hated, and especially to be rated. They committed no crimes. None that we know of. Instead, they were a self-sufficient family farm. Now, my friend Richard Kelly Hoskins told us in his books that the basis of every civilization was the self-sufficient family farm. And about 15 years ago, thereabouts, I tried to tell you, if you can grow your own food and generate your own energy from the wind, the sun, the creek that runs beside your house, you don't need the bankers, you don't need the government anymore, and that's what they're afraid of. Shortly after, just about a year after I started promoting the whole Liberty Village concept, they tried to kill me. Now, maybe it was because I pointed the finger at building number 7, put that on the cover of my magazine, and told you 9/11 was an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning. All of that could have played a part in the attack on me. It was Jews. It was 2 Israeli companies that George Bush, not the NSA, allowed to tap all of your phones. They tapped mine. And I don't want to dwell on that. I don't want to go back and complain and, poor me. I don't want to do that. I want to encourage you. And it's hard to do. Some people called me, Russell, and told me, if I support you, I could be targeted too. I could be targeted too. I don't want your support. I don't need the support of cowards. I don't need the support. If you don't want to support me, then you're basically a coward, or you're a Jew. There's nobody else. I'm working for you. I'm working for the American, and I'm working for Christians here. What Jesus told you, that you can do what I do and more. And he also told you... What? I don't know where that came from.
Go ahead.
He also told you to beware the Jews who say they are Jews and are not. And that's a perfect description, 2,000 years ago, of the whole Jews from Khazaria that converted to Judaism. They ain't Jews and they ain't Christians, and their ancestors were never in Palestine. The Palestinians are probably the true descendants of the true Israelites, as Russell and I probably are. Our ancestors might have crossed the Caucasus Mountains from enslavement to get out of enslavement, turn left and colonize Germany and colonize England and colonize France. We may be the true Israelites. Now, I've tried to give you this, and I'm trying to tell you that if we work together, if you supported me here, because I've had the idea for a long time, I've been doing the idea for a long time, and if I had the backing here, I could move forward with this. We could go out and buy family farms. We could go, I mean, they're going out of business. They're putting them out of business. I think that my concept of the family farm, opening it up to people, I mean, if you put shelters like teepees or yurts or cabins, or just hay bale houses, just mud bricks. If you built these inexpensive shelters and put wind and put solar, because they won't let you have the magnetics here. They'll kill you before they'll let you have the magnetic generators. But India is coming up with it. India, China, Russia are forming bricks, and they could change everything if they're not taken over and subverted by the Jews. We're telling you the truth here. And when I came up with the idea for Liberty Villages, they tried to kill me, and they tried to stop the publishing and the distribution of my book, Mystery Babylon, The New World Order Unveiled. It's an Israelite handbook. It tells you the truth about it. You don't realize how powerful you are. You don't realize that God's within you. You don't have to go to the preacher or the priest or the rabbi to get his blessings. It's right within you. It's within you. That's probably the most important thing that you need to know. I'm telling you the truth. And I go back and I try to study what happened 10,000 years ago when the Atlanteans ran the world, colonized the world, built the pyramids, and then were pretty much wiped out by the floods or the worlds in collision. I wrote books about that too. That's my Lucifer series. Now, I haven't been able to... I wrote some of these books when I was in prison in Texas. This is 45 years ago. Yeah, I was in prison. But you know what? 45 years have passed, and other than a traffic ticket, I don't have any police. I walked into the FBI office in Albuquerque after I published my last hard copy magazine. I laid it on the desk of the agent there, and I said, "I'm Clay Douglas. I brought you enough magazines here for every agent in the building. I just wanted you to know who I am." And the guy kind of grinned. He said, "We know who you are, Clay. Thanks." And the important part of that story is that I was able to walk out again, and I haven't been harassed, and I haven't been shot or anything yet. They're a little afraid, a little hard to kill. The accident didn't kill me. The drugs didn't kill me. The threats didn't deter me. And the idea I had for the Liberty Villages is still viable. It's something we can do. Every small town in America ought to be a Liberty Village. You move people out onto your farm, into your ranch, and let them help you develop it. Grow your own food, not genetically modified crap that's going to kill you and your children. Generate your own power. Figure it out. Solar, wind. We got by for hundreds of years in this country with windmills pumping water. We've got more technology now. It's doable if we work together. That's the key here, folks. Working together. They want to divide and conquer. They want to divide and conquer. Now, what part of that can't you understand? That's what they say in the learned elders of the protocols of Zion. They go after the farmers first because they don't want you being able to feed yourself. Protocol number 5, the masses led by lies. The Goyim have lost the habit of thinking unless prompted by suggestions from our specialists. I've told you that the whole television, Talmud vision is programming. They don't call it programming for nothing. This is what they do. The art of directing masses by means of cleverly manipulated theory and verbiage, by regulations of life in common and all sorts of other quirks in all which the Goyim understand nothing, belongs likewise to the specialists of our administrative brain, geared on analysis, observation, on delicacies, and fine calculation. In this species of skill we have no rivals, any more than we have either in the drawing up of plans of political actions and solidarity. In this respect, the Jesuits alone might have compared with us, but we have contrived to discredit them in the eyes of the unthinking mob as an overt organization, while we ourselves all the while have kept our secret organization in the shade. However, it is probably all the same to the world who is its sovereign lord, whether the head of Catholicism or our despot of the blood of Zion. But to us, the chosen people, it is very far from being a matter of indifference. Programming, that's what they do to you. Here you see the Jews being pushed into a giant food mixture devised by the fiendish Gestapo. 1 million Jewish rabbis died in this blender. Wow, I never knew that. Those Nazi pigs. TV is so informative. Have you noticed that every television, every radio station, all the movie theaters are controlled by Jews? And they don't tell you, they don't paint the Nazis, the Germans, as being the good guys, ever. They don't present the militia or the Christians in a positive light. They don't want to do that. The television is their weapon against you. Now, if you got together with your neighbors, if you passed out flyers, if you worked at it, you could turn your neighborhood into a co-op, into a family farm. And my friend Dr. Jake Wade, I'm on the board of directors of the Timothy Bible College, the Little Red Schoolhouse. You can educate your children at home. You don't have to send them to a college where they'll be indoctrinated, not educated. You don't have to send them to a school to wait to be murdered by these insane, whoever they are. Whatever, whether it's drugs or whether it's television. How many murders do your children watch every day on television? How much, every other show is about torturing somebody, about doing something to someone else? Yeah, right. What is the topic? If you don't know what the topic is, you dumb son of a bitch, you're not listening. I'll just kick your ass. All right, Russell. I've rambled on long enough, sir.
What else can I say? It's all truth. Every word of it. You know, oh boy. the country is in a jam, and then the people don't want to wake up, and the
Wait a minute, I just lost you there, bud. Alright, hopefully Russell will be back on here in a second.
You hear me?
Now I can. Now I can, sir.
You maybe cut off a quarter tail.
What's that?
You maybe cut off a quarter tail.
Okay.
We have to do the whole meter.
Sorry.
Okay.
Male and female. You need.
What's that? You're breaking up.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can. You've just been breaking up, bud.
Okay. What happens is you need to be a fully functioning individual with a combination of logic as well as creativity, the right combination of male and female. But it switches to creative, but it doesn't create. It switches to
All right.
imagine.
Hang on a minute. I'll be right back here. Hang on just a second.
Good morning, sir.
Hello.
Sir.
Who are you? What do you want? Okay, I'm back
we
here.
Need some
Go ahead.
I'm
sorry, I just cut off for a second here. Go ahead.
Okay, anyway, the left brain switches to the right brain. Flashing images streaming through the consciousness, affecting the chemistry. You need a combination of both. You start imagining that what you believe, what you're hearing is true. Because what happens is, everything you see. This is why they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is why people use propaganda and images. By the way, the TV was invented by Dr. Edward Bernays, who was the grandson of Sigmund Freud, for this very purpose. Another thing happens. The switch over releases endorphins, which to watching the TV. So you become illogical. You imagine things that what you're hearing is true, and you become addicted. In essence, you're being programmed. Oh yeah, that's why they call it a television program. You are the program, and you're being programmed. Television is, and why do they call it television? Because the Jews invented the Talmud, and the Jews invented the TV. It's designed to brainwash you while entertaining you. While you sit there and watch a ball game or listen to the news, taking another Xanax, drinking another beer, having another drink, enjoying yourself, and thinking you're educating yourself by watching the False History Channel. All this, these other stations, Home and Garden, to get you to spend money through contractors, listening to the bullshit you hear on Angie's List about a contractor, that's the only way to go. All nonsense. I don't watch television. I watch things that, I do watch certain TVs. I watch TVs that I know have a hit, programs that have a different, that have hidden messages. And when I watch a movie or a TV, I not only watch what the actors are doing, I watch what's going on in the room. I watch to see certain images, certain things that are put up around the surrounding actors that I know are there to condition me. Because why? Because I'm awake. I'm aware. I'm conscious. I used to argue with my second wife about this, but she was an idiot. She actually believed that it was only a movie. There's no such thing as only a movie. Read the book Hoodwinked by a fellow by the name of Yuri, who I've had many a conversation with. He was a professional artist, a Russian guy. He decided all the TV shows. The ones that are supposed to be science fiction are actually, many of the things you see in a movie already exist. They're true, they have it. Television is programming. And the media, well, the media, the wise know very well the world media is 96% owned by Jews. Yeah, 96% of the world media is owned by Jews. In America, there are 7 news corporations, and 6 of them are owned by out-and-out Jews. The other one is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who happens to be a staunch Zionist and may be a Marizano Jew. Oh, I saw something the other day that's very, very interesting. In fact, Clay, I sent it to you on Alex Jones. It's called Infohores.com. Alex Jones is a Zionist. He's Jewish. He's promoting his show to get you to believe that it's Hitler's Nazis that are in control of America, when it's in truth the Jews who are in control of America. He's there to scare you with no solution. That's all he does. You won't hear him talk about, he's just despicable. His days are numbered. David Duke did a number on him because David Duke is eloquent. David Duke had his problems in the past. Big deal, we all have. We've all been a little foolish before we became wise, those of us who have become wise. But folks, you have a shot. If you're not affected by the fluoride, and if you're not affected by the chemtrails or contrails in the air, the genetically modified foods, the pesticides in the soil, you have a shot to wake up if you haven't woken up already. In fact, as long as you have a soul and you are a real human being and not a clone, and yes, clones do exist, you have a shot. You have a shot to wake up and baptize yourself. If Clay made his point before, he said, you don't need a priest, you don't need a preacher. You certainly don't need a rabbi or a leader in the Islamic movement. What you need is to baptize yourself. You have to wash yourself with symbolic water. Cleanse your mind of all the propaganda that you have been conditioned with since the early days of your youth. Only then can you,
Right.
who is the Holy Spirit, your Heavenly Father,
And
then you can activate yourself. Let me finish. You can activate yourself and ask for guidance. Then it will be open to you. Oh yeah, like Jesus said, seek and you shall find. Ask and you shall receive. Knock and it shall be open to you. There are 2 gates, as Jesus said. There's the narrow gate that you have to work to get through. But it's the door to the light, to the pleroma, the source, as the Gnostics would say, of divinity. Or there is the door, the wide gate, that's easy to pass through, that all the crowds pass through. Okay? And that road, that path, leads to one place. It's the doorway to hell. You must go through the narrow gate if you want to be truly free. Because if not, you will perish from a lack of knowledge. You will be destroyed from the consequences of your inveterate ignorance that you actually think is an education. Come on, folks. We're trying to help you. I don't mean to be so stern, but I have to be. I have to use tough love. I have to use shock and awe techniques. And I have the ability to do it thanks to Sophia, the Holy Spirit. I have wisdom. I know I do. And anything I accomplished in my whole life, all the times I thought I did it because I was so cool, so fly, so flashy, I had the savoir-faire, the panache, the elan. It wasn't me. It was my Heavenly Mother and Father that were guiding me or protecting me from the consequences of my own ignorance.
Well, I've told people that I believe God's alive and well. In the 21st century, he just uses the internet because burning bushes are kind of passé.
Yeah, and that wasn't God who burnt that bush anyway, so it doesn't matter. That's all. Holy Moses, the king of the Jews. Go ahead.
It's all right. It's all right. We may get interrupted here. We got an electrician working on the wiring of the house here. So if I suddenly disappear here, I do have the battery in my computer now, so maybe I can continue here. But it might cut off the internet, so don't know yet. We still the guy's still out there working, and you know.
Sitting here as I'm talking, folks, passing the time away while Clay's talking, and I'm listening, and I'm watching without sound. October 2015, the first, on Monday Night Raw, the cage match. It's totally ludicrous between Randy Orton, the Viper, and John Cena, and it is comical. It is totally comical. See, folks, I like to have fun, too. That's why I do lip-sync videos. I'm an entertainer. I like to entertain just like they entertain. But when I entertain, I sneak in the truth. When they entertain, and they meaning P-O-V, the powers that be, entertain in order to deceive. And when they do tell you the truth, they tell you the truth in order to deceive. They tell you a little truth, a big lie, and another little truth, a sandwich lie. And you swallow the whole kit and caboodle, and then you have become, as I like to put it, in a profane sort of way, mind-fucked and mesmerized.
Well, again, there is no problem with being proud of your race, of being a Caucasian, because I believe the true Israelites went out, crossed the Caucasus Mountains, and settled Germany, settled France, and we were actually doing that thousands of years ago. The Solitarians created arrowheads that were sharper than a razor. And those have been found not only in Europe but in America. Not along the land bridge from Russia, but on the East Coast. These white people, Scandinavians, were here in America long before even the Indians. The Indians may have came in and killed off the whites that were here, but we've done that several times. We've
go back. We have to go back to the days of Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. In the Bible, when you read it in English, it says Nimrod was a mighty hunter for the Lord. That is not true. The real translation reads, and I know, that hunter against the Lord. He was against the demon who impersonated the prime creator of the universe. So he built the Tower of Babel, which was actually a spaceport. What the Lord did was then confound the tongue. I believe at one point we were all one color. Clay could prove, and so could I, that the sons of Isaac, or Isaac's sons, hence the word Saxons. Know your etymology. But also, I believe at one point we could have all been black, because white is actually the absence of color, and black contains the spectrum of all colors. It doesn't matter. Color means nothing. Clay's not a racist, and neither am I. I like black people.
Don't care.
I don't like Jews. I don't like Ashkenazi. I like all people except Ashkenazi Jews. But by confounding our colors, if that is true, and I cannot prove that, although I suspect it, and highly suspect it.
Still with me?
Can you hear me, Clay?
Now I can. Now I can.
I said, united we stand, divided we toil. By changing our colors into different diverse colors and different races, okay? That would turn us against each other, because people are prejudiced for one reason and one reason only: fear. Fear of the unknown. We're all the same under the skin. our blood is all red except for the blue bloods that have the RH factor, which is reptilian blood that comes from the reptilian races. That's a fact, folks, and it's indisputable. You know, you folks have been indoctrinated to think civilization started 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, let's say. But the truth is, there is evidence all over the world of civilizations that are so old, it is almost unbelievable. And what does science say about this? They deny it. They don't deny it, rather, forgive me, apologies. What they do is they call it an anomaly. An anomaly. That's what they do. Their science is not there to teach you. Science is there to condition you and brainwash you. That's why I don't use the word science except now when I'm describing their agenda. I call it Lyence. Lyence. It's indoctrination, brainwashing to make you think the way they want you to think. They don't, as far as black and white, they want us all one color now once they cut down the world population.
Yeah, like Obama. They want more Obamas out there. The perfect New World Order leader. He's the New World, perfect New World. Obama is the perfect New World Order leader. He's black, he's white, he's Christian, he's Muslim, he's Jewish. But at the base of it, he's Jewish. He brags about it.
If I was forced to make a bet right now, and I was asked who runs the new...
If you broke up again, Norman, go ahead.
Well, I say there's someone else above the Rothschilds that are using the Rothschilds. Because the truth is hidden. You have to go very, very deep behind the rabbit hole. And I say, and if I answered correctly to that, and they said you have one more bet to make, who is it? I would say the reptilian races, the Archons, that came down to Earth, looked upon the Earth eons ago and said, I want this Earth. It's mine. I'll declare myself God, and I'll rule it. This is what I believe.
Maybe they evolved. Maybe Darwin was right about one part. Maybe these reptilians evolved from the dinosaurs.
There's thought on that. I've read those theories. I don't know if I ascribe to them or not, but they have their credence. There's so many things. There's some things we're not meant to know, but one thing that we're supposed to know. We're supposed to know who we are, and that we are gods. We are gods. Jesus said it. Don't you know you are gods? Know yourself and know that you are gods. You must know yourself. People don't know themselves. They think that
You still there? Alright, we lost connection again here for a moment. You still with me, Russell?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, couldn't hear you there for a second. And that, I see here.
Seconds later.
Yeah, I'm losing, every now and then, I lose the electricity cuts off and the speakers go out, so maybe on my end here.
I'm having a problem with my phone here, and I got a very good desk set, and with a speaker, it's going in and out on me too. Something's going on. The caller ID isn't working, but I think that's just I don't know what it is really. I'm not paranoid. And by the way, folks, paranoia is heightened awareness. It's not a disease. If people call you paranoid, be proud of yourself. That means you're awakening.
It's, again, I would like to see us. I'm not like Alex Jones here. I'm not here just to scare you. I'm trying to tell you that you white folks, and Christianity started 2,000 years ago because Jesus rebelled against the control of the Ashkenazis, of the Pharisees. He didn't want to go along with it, and he had.
At that point, Clay, if you go back, and I don't want to be critical, but I have to be at this point. They were not Ashkenazis. Those were what you call Sephardics. At that point, the Ashkenazis at that time were already in Europe. They were the burghers and the migrants. The Ashkenazis come from the children of Ashkenaz, who was the son of Gomar, who was the daughter of Japheth, non-Semitic race. They called themselves the people of the seas. They did a lot of business with the Sephardics, as well as other countries. They were manipulators. They were the real bankers. They taught the Sephardics all they knew, and they were defeated at the Battle of Megiddo in the 13th to 15th century and wound up in the on the Eastern Europe, where they became the burghers and the Magars, and then the Khazars. That's why we always use the term Khazarian conspiracy. Google Khazarian conspiracy. You'll find out that the Jews are a non-Semitic race, the modern-day Jew. The Sephardics have just about all been killed off. The real Semitic peoples on earth are the Arabs, the Armenians, and of course the scattered ones.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah. How many Armenians were murdered? Probably more than 6 million, wasn't it? Who killed the Armenians?
Oh, probably, I'm sure. I believe one of the learnedest men that ever walked the planet Earth, Gurdjieff, who wrote a lot of tomes, was an Armenian. I know he was part Greek, but then the Greeks were always wise people.
It was.
And so were the Africans, for that matter.
It was the Greeks.
But
it was the Greeks that I'm starting to learn opposed the Atlanteans, because the Atlanteans were basically not good. They descended into evil, and they were opposed by the Greeks and others. It's after the flood, even before the flood, these pyramids were built by a highly advanced race of people. I call them Atlanteans for a better word for it. And a lot of our legends, a lot of the gods, Zeus and others like that in mythology, I don't believe it was a myth. I believe that these stories have been passed down, and they described it the best they could. I mean, what else do you call somebody that can fly across continents? Gilgamesh. They picked up Gilgamesh and took him with him on that trip. So he was. Go ahead.
Clay, I'm a staunch believer in reincarnation, and I know for a fact, and I'm not going to go into it today, that I am an incarnation. At one point, my higher self chose incarnated, as he did now with me, incarnated as Salon. Now, Salon who was Solon? Solon was the grandfather of a fellow that you all know very well by the name of Plato. Solon was one of the 7 wise men of Greece. He freed the Greeks from slavery and then went on to acquire more wisdom and went on to Egypt. He was told by an Egyptian priest that he was a youngster. The priest said to him, Solon, you're a youngster. Know you not, he said to him, that your race, your peoples, defeated the Atlanteans and caused a great flood in a sea battle, which actually, when the Greeks were trying to take over when the Atlanteans were trying to create a new world order. Very interesting story because, yes, the Greeks did defeat the Atlanteans, and someone will defeat the Jews. And I will do all in my power to instigate it and act as a catalyst and bring it about. Of course, the Phoenix had it.
Let's do another one here under protocols, because this is it, man. Protocol number 5 is monopoly capital. The reason they are so successful at what they do, they created the money out of thin air, and they set up the Federal Reserve 100 years ago. And then they financed the movie theaters, they bought Reuters News. It's like Carl Klang said, if you got your very own printing press, pretty soon you can buy up the whole neighborhood. This is exactly what they've done. This is what I'm fighting against right now. I had money. I was working on, I had boats, I went out and paid $5,000 for a brand new, a used 1966 Hatteras. I had the money, and I was doing well. I set up the paraphernalia industry. We set up head shops around the country. I financed Jack Harrow while he was, helped finance Jack Harrow while he was writing The Emperor Wears No Clothes. And from that Bible of hemp, we've got the progress that we made in getting marijuana legal in 2 states. Wish I'd done it 45 years ago. I wouldn't have had to do that 1.5 years in prison for marijuana. Never stolen anything. Never hurt nobody that didn't deserve to be hurt. And it's if you think about how I've been demonized for starting the militias, they just don't tell you that I started the militia in the governor's office. Governor Gary Johnson should have been president. He ran for it, but of course the media didn't let you know about that. He was a good man, still is, and he's still active in the legalization. And we've got to get that all over the country. Right now they're jockeying. There's a chess game being played, so the government and the bankers can still make money off of the legalized pot. That's part of the issue here. We don't need the banks, we don't need the drug companies to control marijuana. God gave us that. We don't need anybody taxing us for it. And that's how they stopped it in the first place. They put a tax on hemp that was so outrageous that the farmers couldn't grow it anymore. And you're not getting all of this story from the mainstream news. Even in Colorado, they're not telling you about the history of that, and the government is kind of sitting back, at least the state governments, because they're making a lot of money in the taxes. I don't believe they ought to be making any money off of the taxes. But I guess that makes me a radical, doesn't it?
Clay, I just got to interject for one moment on a different topic. I told people to go to Facebook. I just got another notification that when looking at my website, my Facebook page, it says this week, because I have a public figure page, I cannot comment or like anyone else's posts. But it says this week I had 24,116 visitors. 402 posts engaged. So we are waking up, people. I don't see it other than on the net. We're silently doing it.
Well, that's encouraging. I don't see that on any of my things. I'm looking at my Facebook page here. I don't know where it's
But you
at.
don't have a public figure page. Your page is under your name. My page is a public figure page, Phoenix Speaks. So on the side, when I look at the screen, I don't know if anyone else comes to the screen. I doubt they can see it, but I can see it. It says promote, and it says when I look at the right side of the screen, it says this week 24,110 post reach, post engagement 402. That means 402 people engaged in making comments, which they don't show me because they hide my favorable comments now, where I was averaging 70 to 100 likes and favorable comments. Nobody dares to frack with me because I'm not the kind of guy to be fracked with. So they don't want to show me, so they want to try to dissuade me from posting. This is why I constantly insult the Facebook police chief and Zuckerberg by posting lip-sync videos and nonsense that his wife was caught in the shower watching my videos. I do Turn Off the Lights by Eddie Pendergast. I have a picture of the Facebook police chief as Don Knotts, Barney Fife.
Yeah.
I have all this ridiculous stuff to captivate the audience so they go to the page, and then I sneak in the conspiracy stuff. Otherwise, they just don't want to listen. The American public is addicted to sexy soul, rock and roll, and fun. So I'll give them some fun. I'll entertain them. I have that ability. I've been given that gift, and I believe it was given to me for that very reason, to do what I'm doing now. Got no monetary gain out of it. No big deal. My house is paid for. Got no bills. I don't live luxuriously like I did in the past, driving the 740 IL Beamers, driving the new Hummers. Always had 2 to 3 cars at once. Had a boat for years, but I wrecked it. Had a Sea Ray, not a big one, just a 21-footer. I'm not a fisherman. I like to fish on the plate in a fine restaurant. But, it's the way it is. It's just the way it is. I do what I do because I have to do it. It's my calling. See, folks, there's another saying that was distorted by the rabbis who authored your New Testament with their false, phony religion of Judeo-Christianity, which is so oxymoronic, it's pathetic. Many are called, few are chosen. That is not the saying. The correct saying is many are called, few and choose. They reversed the word chosen. They wrote it out as chosen where it should be and choose. In other words, many are called, but few follow the call. Few take the call. I have taken the call. This is what I do, and I do it quite well, as does Clay. Yes, I do it very well. And for those who don't want to follow me and hear my advice, you could all go to hell. That's all I got to say. I'm not on social media to win friends and influence people. I'm on social media to wake up, rise up, and stir up the warriors of old, the ancient warriors of old, who don't know who they are. If you don't like what I have to say, if you don't like what I post, it's a thing of no interest to me. But I would not see the bank accounts of my brothers and sisters stripped of capital. I will not see them thrown into FEMA camps that have been springing up all over this once great nation. I will not see their bodies thrown into FEMA coffins as depicted in the murals that line the walls of Denver Airport. No, I would not have it so. Action demands reaction. Blood demands blood. But the choice is yours, as I've said many times. I'm an advocate of free will, and so is Clay. You can go back to your couches. You can go back to your sofas. You could take another Xanax, take another pill, have another drink, have another Oxycontin, play a silly game that I call putt-putt on the golf courses, watch American Idol or Glee, and pretend that all is well. But you know down deep in your heart of hearts it is not. But there is another choice. You can join Clay and I. You could join the revolution to be free.
I've
And
always
together,
told
we can
people,
make the new Roman Empire on the Potomac tremble, crumble, and fall.
I've always told people, Russell, that I don't want to be the only free American out there. I want us all to be free Americans. That's free thought. That's being able to communicate. It's being able, I mean, all of these ideas, your vision of Atlantis, of the past 1,000 years, may not be the same as mine. Maybe we came from different areas. Maybe we came from different countries. Maybe we've got different languages, and we can only do so much with the information we've got. And it's haberdashery, fine haberdashery. He said, "Wow, if we don't agree, we can go where? Go where? Go to hell. Go to hell. I don't care whether you agree with me or not." And he also said here, he said about somebody was up there, said something about his people. Did he think his people were the chosen people? What was that? And I said, no. They chose themselves and tried to convince you that you were supposed to be their slaves. Isn't that exactly what happened?
Without a doubt. The real chosen people are those who have heard the call and have chose to follow and try and help up their brothers. They don't try to take advantage and have power over others. They have power over themselves, and they spread the knowledge that the others can have power over themselves too if they listen, if they observe. You got to be an observer first. You have to observe. You got to look around you and see all the faults that are all around, and you see the good too. And then, when you've done enough observing, you'll know. When will that be? I don't know. I can't answer for you. I can only answer for me. One day I just woke up and said, well, this is what I got to do. I ain't going to take it anymore.
Russell, that's exactly what happened. When I was sitting watching on television, the tanks rolling in on Waco, rolling in on the farmhouse, with the BATF opening fire on a house full of children. I saw the tapes, the videos that were made inside the Branch Davidians compound with bullet holes, 50 caliber bullet holes in the roof, in the ceiling, in a room full of women and children. And I said, I cannot sit back and watch something like that happen again ever, without doing something. I started the militias, I started this magazine, I started this radio show.
And why was it done? Because a fat, lesbian, degenerate pig by the name of Janet Reno said, we're doing it for the children. Oh yeah, they went out and killed children for the children. And you, fracking idiot, swallowed it. That fat, degenerate, obscene, obese pig.
I was walking out of a meeting with a presidential candidate. I was his bodyguard. I was his driver, and I also helped write his speeches. Charles Collins ran for president in 1996, first Republican to sign up for the presidency, and we were walking out of a meeting, and some fat Jew said, well, they got what they deserve. They got what did those 17 little children do to deserve being murdered?
Nothing. And I'm so irate right now that I'm going to make a very bold statement, because you mentioned that you did a year and a half in prison. Well, I did 3 years straight between Elmira Reformatory and then 31 months in Comstock, Great Meadow in the Adirondack Mountains. And I guarantee you, folks, you who use the word commander-in-chief, I have not seen a president in my time, with the exception of John F. Kennedy, who would not be, and I'm going to be crude, but presidents too, especially that creep, that Zionist POS piece of shit, Joe Biden. And if you think you're going to change it with elections, go to my Facebook page. Hear my videos on the new election coming up. The new election that you'll vote for Trump, takes the votes away from Bush, so Hillary could get in. And if you don't, Bush will get in. And it doesn't matter because they're all owned and controlled by the Jews who have compromised the Israeli lobby, all AIPAC, which is owned by the B'nai B'rith Freemasonic Lodge, which is owned by the House of Rothschild, the Synagogue of Satan, who is owned by the Creator only knows.
Two wings of the same bird. You know what really frosts me is that at the last presidential election, over $1 billion was donated by Americans to the Democrats and the Republicans. Where did that money go? It went to buy advertising for the selected candidates, and it didn't matter who the candidates were. If they went along with Israel, if they put on their little yarmulke, if they went and prayed at the wall, then AIPAC would support them. ADL would support them. Southern Poverty Law would support them. And so you gave $1 billion and nothing changed. You got a black president, you know, a doper, and nothing changed. Nothing changed between the Republicans and Democrats. Two wings of the same bird.
There will be change at every election in America, and the change will be for the worse, because the more numerous the state, the more corrupt the laws, and all politicians do are pass laws under the guise of the common good that restrict and take away each one of your freedoms through gradualism. They gradually strip you of every right that you have, and eventually you won't even remember you were once free. This is the way it is, folks, and unless you put an end to it, and I'm not telling you to go out in the streets with a gun and start shooting people. That's preposterous. That's violence. That's evil.
That's what the Jews do when they start a revolution. When the Jews start a revolution, they want you killing each other. They want you, yeah. And somebody's asking, what were you sent to prison for? And Lynn told him, that's highly personal, and it's none of your fucking business. If he wants to tell you, he'll tell you. I'm not passing those questions on. Got that? Go ahead, Russell. I don't mind telling people what I don't mind.
What I went away for?
Yeah, he wanted to know.
Okay, I went away because I was set up by Bob Greene, who wrote the book The Heroin Trail, stating I assaulted him when I had two witnesses that he assaulted me. But those witnesses were discredited. He had no witnesses. He was a liar and a fat pig by the name of Bob Greene, and yes, he was Jewish. He was the head of the editorial staff in Newsday in 1966. They sentenced me under the penal law, under a misdemeanor. They convicted me under the penal law, a misdemeanor that only acquired a year in jail, and then gave me 3 years in a correctional institution, and along with 3 more years running concurrently the illegal possession of bombs, which were in someone's car that I was in. The whole thing was a setup. The whole thing. And the witnesses to Bob Greene, character witnesses. One guy owned, a Chinese guy who owned Gamboa, a very famous Chinese restaurant. The other one owned a bar and grill at the Woodbury Lanes. Both of them were arrested a year and a half later. I read it in the newspaper for running illegal prostitution rings. These were Mr. Greene's character witnesses. Yeah, I was set up. Do I resent it? You better believe it. But, to be very honest, I was very wild. I did what I wanted to do. I was young. I was foolish. I would have gotten into bigger trouble. So it was for the best. Because in those 3 years, I became a scholar. I educated myself. I trained. Physically, I was always in great physical condition. I was an athlete in high school. Actually, a star football player. the guy who I beat out for fullback in 1962, and then I got hurt in a scrimmage, went on to, was drafted by the New York Giants and was kicked off. His name was Harry Blackney. And what was he kicked off for? For beating up his wife, which is a despicable thing. Back then, things were a little bit different. But what I did at one point, I spent a year in the box because I don't tolerate no shit. I don't accept what's unacceptable. I memorized 20 to 40 words a day. I started to writing short stories, 2 of which I was published. When I came out in 1969, I went to Queensborough College. I majored in psychology and English. Both my professors said I didn't have to come to class after I spoke and said what I had to say. But my English professor of English composition said, "You're awesome. If this was the 17th century, you'd be a superstar. You don't have to come to class. I don't give out A's. I'll give you a B. I'll give you a B plus." I said, "Well, to be honest with you, could I talk to you?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I've been away for 3 years. I got to get laid. I like some of these girls in this class. I could give them a little sexual education." He laughed and he says, "Okay, come to class, but every class, 2 nights a week or 3, you'll spend some time with me. I'll simplify your writing style from a sesquipedalian, bombastic, ostentatious writer to that of a Steinbeck or a Hemingway." And I got 2 short stories published thanks to that great guy in the Evergreen Review. One was about stopping smoking, 2 guys in prison trying to stop smoking. The other one was on footsteps, the guilt of the correctional officer. It was awesome. They paid me $50 a short story. I said, "Fuck this." My uncle said, "Russ, you're a good-looking guy. You dress well. Go in and you can talk. Go to the garment center. You'll sell piece goods." Well, that's what I did. And I gave a lot of those designers and they, them young, sexy buyers an education, too, in sexual promiscuity. That's what I went away for.
All right. Well, everybody knows what I went to jail for. And,
Yeah, for nothing, for marijuana. A hemp, manna from heaven.
20...
It gives one higher consciousness, prevents brainwashing, and is a very healthy substance that the government controls because they want to take away the additives that give you the higher consciousness and take away the good buzz that you could get at night when you go to sleep, smoking it, listening to classical music such as Beethoven, Mozart. And I could go on and on.
They are starting to look at allowing veterans to use marijuana for the PTSD, which is a hell of a lot better for them than that Depakote and all that they give me. And I did it a few times, and I'll do it every now and then, but basically don't do nothing. And it's just a way for them to get more money.
I haven't.
What's that?
Honestly, I haven't taken a prescription pill or basically an over-the-counter pill in many years. The only thing that I take is 2 things: organic sulfur and colloidal silver. Okay, and I eat healthy and I work out 5-6 days a week. I'm a martial artist. I'm 68 years old. The women tell me I look between 38 and 48. And you know how I look. And why? Because I'm disciplined. I have control over myself, and that's the problem with America. The Americans do not have control over themselves. We're laughed at. We're the laughing stock of the world. Not only because of our inane, I-N-A-N-E, belief systems, but because of the way we take care of their bodies and the fast genetically modified foods we eat in McDonald's, Burger King, and that we buy in the stores. Foods that are illegal in at least 50 countries. And by the way, Russia just outlawed all GMO foods. Will it happen here? No way. Because the United States is a shithole. It's a kosher sewage plant. And that flag, it nauseates me. I will never salute a flag that waves my rights away. This country is a farce. It's a sham. And said it best. Tom Cruise in the movie, born on the 4th of July, when he said in his speech, Yankee Doodle Dandy. It's classic. I suggest you YouTube it. YouTube Tom Cruise Yankee Doodle Dandy speech. He said it like he is. It's a beautiful country, but the buck stops there. The government is evil.
What's that?
It's insidious. And the very word government comes
Mechanic?
from the words
Who's coming
gubernatori,
to work
a
on
Latin word which means control, steer, and direct,
Caddy.
and mentis, which
Okay.
means to mind
You can't
control.
wait
The
15
problem
minutes?
with 90% of Americans or more
Okay.
is that they're
Deposit
stricken
that
with
check for
cognitive
me.
I
dissonance,
just
they don't
noticed
have
that.
the ability to
Marge's
accept the
coming
truth,
in with me.
and they
Okay.
all have the ailment of Stockholm Syndrome. They idolize those who enslaved them. I've said what I had to say.
Stockholm Syndrome, yep. You're exactly right about that.
It's sad. It is so sad. You know, many people, a lot of people who know me over the years, I still
Put your
have
account number on there.
several good
You'll have to
friends,
have
but
that.
most of them, I want
have your
nothing to
account
do with
number,
them
so
because
I
they
have to put it-
nauseate me.
Put the account number on your deposit slip. Oh, you don't have it?
If you get my, in there, the checkbook's in there. Okay, sorry about that. It's, checking here. You know, folks, we really can do this. I mean, the answers are there. They've been there for 100 years. Now, are we going to be able to get magnetics? Yeah. Matter of fact, India is setting it up so that their people can get free electricity. Indonesia is setting up. One of my guests here has a coil that will power these units. And I said, well, wow, man, you know, when are we going to be able to get that here? And he says, I won't do it here. They would kill me if I tried to do it here. So
You're not even allowed to collect your own rainwater and then boil it to a drink. If you want to boil it, you probably don't have to. They want to poison you with fluoridated water.
that's right.
They don't even want you to grow your own food. They don't take care of the farmers in this country, and yet food is a subsistence. We need food, unfortunately, and we need drinking water. You could live without food for 3 or 4 weeks, water 5 days,
That's right.
6 days. This country is a disaster. Like I said, it's a totalitarian dictatorship, a collective oligarchy ruled by the hidden few. It's an Orwellian dystopia. In essence, I'll sum it all up, it's a kosher sewage plant. And if I had the money, I'd be out of here. I'd take a large group of friends, I'd either go to an island or I'd do what the fictional character John Galt did in the great novel by Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged.
It's
Wait. Note on table by Cannon Dog Food.
what's that?
Note on table by Cannon Dog Food.
Okay. All right.
You know, Clay,
I won't leave America. I am not going to be run out of this country by this Jewish dystopia. You know, I admire Adolf Hitler because he stood up. He stood up and fought him. And the German people stood up and fought him. They did the right thing. And of course that's why they've been demonized, and of course that's why they demonize me. They don't want you being free. They don't want you understanding what's happening here.
folks, if I seem slightly arrogant today, it's because of the way I feel. And in fact, I described it best by posting a new profile picture of myself in a fancy suede jacket. And what I actually say on the picture on my Facebook is, ladies, this is only a facade, a veneer. The real me is the wolf with the blonde in the image below. As you can see, I tell it like it is, so don't miss me every Friday at 10 a.m. on Blog Talk Radio on freeamerican.com. I am who I am, and I am the one and only Phoenix. And underneath that, I have a picture of myself in Vegas in 1997, before I became the Phoenix. And underneath that, I have a picture of a blonde. It's like a cartoonist. It's better than a cartoon. It's a sexy blonde like Little Red Riding Hood with a short skirt up. You can see her panties and a hot ass, petting a wolf, a giant wolf with tiger's eyes. That's how I feel today, and that's why I'm coming on the way I am, because believe me, I've had it. I really have.
Well, but you are still opposing this system. You're still opposing this Jewish system. This is a system here. Let me
Clay, I don't know how to quit. I don't know how to quit. I keep on pushing. I keep on pushing on. Failure, quitting is not an option to me. Only quitters quit. Quitters never win, and winners never quit.
Protocol number 5 is monopoly capital. Let's see what it says about that. Capital, if it is to cooperate untrammeled, must be free to establish a monopoly of industry and trade. This is already being put into execution by an unseen hand in all quarters of the world. This freedom will give political force to those engaged in industry, and that will help to oppress the people. Nowadays, it is more important to disarm the people than to lead them into war. More important to use our advantage the passions which have burst into flames than to quench their fire. More important to eradicate them. The principal object of our directorate consists in this: to debilitate the public mind by criticism, to lead it away from serious reflections calculated to arouse resistance, to distract the forces of the mind toward a sham fight of empty eloquence. That's why they don't want you listening to
I'm
them.
going to augment on that.
Huh?
I'm going to augment on that.
Okay.
And stress something very important, because it's correct. But I want to put it in simple layman's terms. We have been taught that the United States is a capitalist country, and we're opposed to communism. It is not. The United States is not a capitalist country, because if it was, we would have what you call laissez-faire free enterprise. In other words, you could manufacture, produce your own goods, and sell them without a license. That's laissez-faire free enterprise. That's capitalism. What you have is a monopolistic capitalist country. In other words, in order to buy and sell and trade, you need a license. So the wealthy ones can afford to go big after they get their license and stamp out the little guy. So it's not a free country. It's not a capitalist country. It's a monopolistic capitalist country, as depicted in the protocols.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm a very learned and erudite person, but I want to put it in simple terms. You should not need a license to produce what to produce, manufacture, and sell. That is where the monopolies step in, because they have the ability to get the license and then expand so big as to shut out the little guy.
All right, here's a few words
There's
from...
a war on small...
Here's a few words from President Woodrow Wilson, who gave us the Federal Reserve. Our great industrial nation is now controlled by its system of credit. The growth of the nation and all our activities are in the hands of a few men. President Woodrow Wilson. Again, controlled by the
Well, that's
Jews.
what he said on his deathbed.
Yes.
That's what, I mean, because he was on his way to meet his maker.
Yes.
And he was guilty because he said he sold out his country. And why did he sell out his country, folks? Because they set him up. He had a secretary that he was laying around with, having an extramarital affair, and they caught him. And they said they would expose him. So that's how they got him to do what they wanted to do. He allowed, I believe, Louis, what's his name, Clay? Louis Brandeis?
Yeah, Louis Brandeis.
Supreme Court judge in. Yeah, and then he was controlled totally by Colonel Mandel House, a staunch communist who wrote a book, which I forget the name of. You could probably remember.
All right, protocol number 12.
Excuse me a second. I got to grab a cup of coffee.
All right, we control the press. Not a single announcement will reach the public without our control. Even now, this is already being attained by us, inasmuch as all news items are received by a few agencies in whose offices they are focused from all parts of the world. These agencies will then be already entirely ours and will give publicity only to what we dictate to them. Free press destroyed. Literature and journalism are two of the most important educative forces, and therefore our government will become the proprietor of the majority. Our government will become the proprietor of the majority of the journals. This will neutralize the injurious influence of the privately owned press and will put us in possession of a tremendous influence upon the public mind. If we give permits for 10 journals, we shall ourselves found 30, and so on in the same proportion. This, however, must in no wise be suspected by the public, for which reasons all journals published by us would be of the most opposite in appearance, tendencies, and opinions, thereby creating confidence in us and bringing over to us quite unsuspicious opponents who will thus fall into our trap and be rendered harmless. They are scared of the free press. That's why they've been afraid of me. And we deceive workers is protocol number 13, in order that the masses themselves may not guess what they are about. We further distract them with amusements, games, pastimes, passions, people's palaces. Soon we shall begin, through the press, to propose competition in art and sport of all kinds. These interests will finally distract their minds from questions in which we should find ourselves compelled to oppose them, growing more and more disaccustomed to reflect and form any opinions of their own. People will begin to talk in the same tone as we, because we alone shall be offering them new directions of thought. Of course, though, such persons as will not be suspected of solidarity with us. Basically, that's all of your politicians up there now, as well as a few actors and, of course, the producers. We cause depressions, protocol number 20, and we're in one now. Economic crises have been produced for us by the Goyim by no other means than the withdrawal of money from circulation. Huge capitals have stagnated, withdrawing money from the states, which were constantly obliged to apply to these same stagnant capitals for loans. These loans burdened the finances of the state with the payment of interest and made them bond slaves of these capitals. The concentration of industry in the hands of capitalists, out of the hands of smaller masters, has drained away all the juices of the people, and with them also the states. And we've got pictures of the 30s. The Gentile States Bankrupt, Protocol number 20.
I'm back.
All right.
I'm back to let you know I could really shake them down. Go ahead, Clay.
The financial system has been turned over to the Federal Reserve Board. That board administers the finance systems by authority of a purely profiteering group. The system is private, conducted for the sole purpose of obtaining the greatest possible profits from the use of other people's money. That quote's from Congressman Charles A. Lindbergh. And if you don't believe in this free energy, you might ask yourself how Charles Lindbergh could fly across the Atlantic in a friggin' Piper Cub. Couldn't carry enough gasoline. There had to be something else. And of course, then because he was speaking out against the Federal Reserve, they kidnapped his son, I believe it was. And Benjamin Franklin, let's end this with the words of Benjamin Franklin. I fully agree with General Washington that we must protect this young nation from the Jews. In whatever country Jews have settled in a great number, they have lowered its moral tone, depreciated its commercial integrity, and when opposed have tried to strangle that country to death financially, as in the case of Spain and Portugal. Why? Because they are vampires, and vampires do not live on vampires. They cannot live only amongst themselves. If you do not exclude them from these United States in the Constitution, in less than 200 years, they will have swarmed here in such great numbers that they will dominate and devour the land and change our form of government, for which we Americans have shed our blood, given our lives, our substance, and jeopardized our liberty. If you do not exclude them, in less than 200 years, our descendants will be working in the fields to furnish them with substance, while they will be in the counting houses rubbing their hands. I warn you, gentlemen, if you do not exclude the Jews for all time, your children will curse you in your graves. There we go.
Clay, I want to help you out, and I want to make a bold statement here, folks. Clay needs a donation, and I'm speaking for Clay now, and he won't argue with me. I want everybody listening to this show to donate $10 today to Clay. Everybody listening, and Clay will send you a magazine that I have up in my attic, one of the early magazines from Free American when Clay had that company. He will send you a copy of the magazine with that article in it, and much, 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 much more. Spend the $10. Help Clay out. Help my brother out. We need it. He needs donations. I'm not getting anything out of it. I provide my own sustenance. I got other ways to make money. Yeah, and they're all legit. Okay? Hear me out. Send in $10 to Clay. He'll send you a hard copy of that magazine, if he has it, or a PDF or whatever he does it. You'll have the magazine. You'll have that article. You'll have much more.
I have the number one, the first magazine. I have the first magazine that I tried when I tried to restore the Free American after my accident. And I have that magazine that's got Benjamin Friedman's article in it. And he tried to tell you back in the 50s what was happening. He tried to tell you about well, the greatest hoax at the time, and that was that of the Jews trying to convince you that somehow they were related to Jesus Christ. They weren't. They were never there, and he calls it the greatest hoax in the world, in history.
Yes. And Clay, do me a favor.
Yes.
Because all my magazines are up in the attic in the back, and I got a lot of stuff that I don't want to go up in the attic. Send me a copy of that magazine.
I don't have any copies of the magazines. I don't have any copies.
Well,
I don't have any of the original copies.
That article.
They tore it down. I can send you the article. I can send you a PDFs of the last. I've got the last 10 issues, or the last 15 issues up on the Free American website, just to show you how I did it and how it was, why it was one of the best magazines out there. And we're out of time. God bless you all. Thank you, Russell. See you next Friday.
God bless you, folks. You too, Clay. All of you. Take